Justin Stats, Reggie Johnson, Eugene Morgan, coming to you from Love City of Atlanta, Georgia. And we also got with us a special guest, my man B Will. Now, me and him been arguing about sports for about 20 years. So we finally decided to bring him on because we've argued so much about it back and forth that I was like, you know what, man, we should bring him on and see what he has to say about some of these situations that are coming up with some of the Atlanta teams. We'll talk Falcons first because I feel like that's more pressing from a change perspective. We're kind of in that, and maybe we'll talk a little bit of Hawks here towards the end. But for now, guys, let's dig into the Belichick situation, which seems to not be a situation to. I know B will let you. I know you love that, man. You don't. He wasn't really a Belichick fan. Me personally, I feel like that was a decent situation. Since we have our guest on, let's have him give his perspective first, and then Eugene, you'll go after that.
Okay.
What's your thoughts on that, B?
I don't like it at all. I think he should retire and just go down as one of the greatest of all time. Yeah, man, he already on this shield.
Retire.
How much more do we have to go through? Like, you gonna bring him to the Falcons and make him suffer for the remaining years of his year? Like, come on, bro. We know what's gonna happen.
Oh my God, man, suffer.
We know what's gonna happen. Man.
He needs about 14 games to catch Shula. Ain't no way I'm going out of here without getting them 14 games. I don't care if I got you got to carry me out of here before I go out here for them 14. Even if I get on that 14th game, I go to the podium right after that. I don't care if it's mid-season. I'm out of here. I appreciate it. But do you think there's a chance he gets out of here without legitimately going after a record that's so close?
My thing is, even if he do come, how long is he gonna stay? We don't want somebody for a couple of years. Do you want somebody who could possibly take us to the promised land in 2 years and then be gone and we have to start the search all over again? Or do you want somebody we can get right now that we can carry with the dynasty and build around the young players that we already have?
I think that's a good point.
They're going to be there for a minute, bro. We want somebody that's going to be there, that's going to mold them and have them get used to their system and not have to keep on adjusting the coach after coach because we getting 75-year-old dudes who ain't won Super Bowls in 8 years and you know what I mean?
Well, I think if you ask Frank Reich in Carolina, he think that's an eternity because he got 11 games in this season. So if you look at him, he'd be like, man, 2 or 3 years, I can retire off that. That's a whole legacy. Now, let me tell you something. When you look at the fact that, because I'm looking at, let's say that let's just go on the Arthur Smith plan and we just win 7 of them a year. 2 years, he got that 14. You know what I mean? He got that 14. He got that Shula record. He up out of here. I mean, maybe he does us a favor. We had to get Smith up out of here. I'm not sure he should even took the plane back from New Orleans when he lost that game. Right. We should just bust him back from there, right?
Right.
We gave him 3 years. He was an absolute bum.
We gave him 3 years with hopes of more. Right? It's like a relationship. You don't never go into it expecting it to end.
Right.
We're not going to waste our time hiring somebody like, okay, we're going to give him 3 years. We know it ain't going to work out. Nah, we thought he was going to last. We didn't know he was garbage.
What's your thoughts on that, you think?
Well, the Belichick, I completely agree. It didn't make sense for him to come into a team that it has no quarterback, right? If I'm chasing Shula's record, I want like the Chargers job. I want to make sure I have a quarterback. And I know I texted you. Maybe I haven't heard any rumbling about the Bills job, but let's just say that comes available. That's the job I want. Like I want a job where I don't want to just be stringing
in the
along.
Division, huh? Staying in the division if he goes with that.
Right, if he did, but I mean, I would want a quarterback, right? I want to make sure I have a quarterback because, like, let's face it, he did a great job with the defense last year in New England, right?
Their defense stays pretty good,
right? They were a top defense. So there's no doubt he still has that side of it. But again, if like what B said, it's like I want a coach that I want kind of like not being ageism here, but I want like a younger coach that just has just wants.
And that's not hard to do when you're in your 70s, though, right? I mean,
right, exactly.
Anybody. You can close your eyes,
right,
and get a younger coach.
Okay, then.
Yeah, exactly. So I that's what I want, and I know you and I were talking 3 years ago. We weren't like the greatest cheerleaders for Smith, but we're optimistic, right? We're hoping that he had success in Tennessee, so we thought maybe we would get the same thing here. Obviously, we didn't. So, and I'm like I said, I just kind of want. I just want to see who we get at quarterback before I get excited about the coach. I don't know. I text you that ad nauseum. that's what I want to see. Are we gonna make a play for any of these free agents, or are we gonna make a play in the draft for any of the top guys?
You know what's interesting about that, and I don't mind Belichick only because our last few years sucked. I don't really care how you could be 90. Can you win more games than this bum that we had at the position before? Can you not lose 10 games a year for the first time in our franchise's history? You go back, how many coaches have we had in our history that were older than Arthur Smith? And they won, and he gave us the most losingest seasons that we've ever had in our lives, in our existence of a franchise. So I don't know if a guy, he three-peated. He's somehow a remarkably consistent guy to go 7-10 for 3 years consecutive. Like that part is remarkable. But I feel like if I'm going to look at I just want the results. I feel like Belichick, from what I'm coming from, I didn't mind a Belichick. I'm not in love with the Belichick pick because I do agree with you guys in one sense. Without the quarterback, none of this matters. Like, who cares? Who cares if we don't get the if we don't actually get a person behind there who can actually be a decent signal caller for us? I do think that sometimes you'll want the coach in there first so he can give, in my opinion, especially if we're keeping Terry, right? Because y'all haven't heard anything about that, right? We're keeping our GM. So then
I haven't heard anything different.
Okay, so you haven't heard anything about that. All right, so if we're keeping our GM, then we're going to probably want a person like Bill in there, or not Bill, or whoever the coach is going to be. Mm-hmm. You probably want the coach at least to have some input on the draft. I think maybe you want to get him in before the draft so he can at least have an input on free agency and who the quarterback will be. What are your thoughts on that, B?
About the quarterback situation?
Yeah, about getting a coach in before. Do you feel it's important at all? Like, do you feel like you just let Terry just rock it and coach can come anytime?
I'm just ready for the change. Like, whatever order they want to go in, as long as they get it right, dog.
Okay, so what's getting it right to you?
I think we need a coach like now. Before, like, if we're gonna wait till the draft to get a quarterback, we don't want to wait till then to get a coach, because then all the coaches gonna be gone. Like,
correct, all the good ones, right?
5 interviews a week, right? We're gonna end up with another Arthur Smith type person who daddy is cool with the owner and he gets his first job with us just because he, stepson or whatever. You're like, yeah, I give him a job. Come on, we give everybody a try, bro. Do we not give the most tries to first time coaches in the NFL, dog? Who we had? My boy Mike Smith.
Mike Smith, a decent hire. Mike Smith, Super Bowl status.
Yeah, he was back then. I'm just saying, first time coaches. What's my boy from Arkansas that quit because Vic wasn't here?
Oh my! Don't get me started on Bobby Petrino's. Okay, you know what?
My God,
that would be a whole different show. That's a triggering moment, man. That's a triggering moment for any Falcons fan. Is bringing up his name now. Let me tell you something. You just brought up the one person I dislike more than Arthur Smith. Oh, man. Is that bum Bobby Petrino? What an absolute bum this guy is. But we're not. This is not a Bobby Petrino show. We can, as Falcons fans, we can go. We can go very far into roasting Bobby Petrino. But at the end of the day, I do feel like it's important that maybe a coach come, because then I think it eliminates excuses. He can't come in and be like, yo, I didn't have any input on this or that or whatever. You came in, you gave your input. You got the player you want. You're able to give some input on the player you want. What's your thoughts on that, Eugene?
No, it's 100% right. You don't want to wait because, you got to get these, especially these coordinators, while they're hot. I haven't seen Ben Johnson's name mentioned. I'd like to see him interviewed for the job.
I think he's interviewing, but he's still playing.
But I didn't see him interviewing with us. I kind of like to him. I did like the Raheem Morris. I think he was a little ahead of his skis when he was in Tampa the first time, and so it kind of like he's kind of being
wasn't he our interim for a while? Didn't he interim for us?
He did, and so I wouldn't mind seeing that one again. Just like I said, I think the consensus in the room is, can we get the quarterback because that's all that matters. Because look at the playoffs. Everybody has a quarterback. And again, we can debate Brock Purdy, but that's
Purdy's got a winning record. Purdy's won way more games than he's lost.
Exactly. But if you look at every single team that's made the playoffs, and then look at Baker Mayfield was just sitting there for nothing.
I never wanted him, man. I thought he
I
was a
know.
bum. I look like an idiot on my sports show roast. I roasted him into oblivion at the beginning of the season. Then he's playing into the playoffs. I look like a complete idiot.
I get it, and maybe he's this, he's this year's Geno Smith, right? Maybe he's the one who caught lightning in the bottle for 1 year, and Tampa signs him to.
Well, look at the division. You played in a soft division, but I think that Eagles win was impressive for them. Even though the Eagles seem to be collapsing down the stretch here, but that was an impressive W, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's like. All these that's the thing. It's like look at the playoff teams. What's the consistent thing we see? Quarterbacks, top level quarterbacks, and just shout out to Green Bay. I mean, I hate that. I mean, good 3 year. They're going to be on their third franchise quarterback with Jordan Love. Come on,
all of them sat like the latter two sat for a while, right? So the latter two sat for 2 to 3 years. So what a blessing that is, and that's looking great for them.
Right.
But at the same time, here for us. What do you think then is the situation? Because let's kind of pivot then into the quarterback conversation here, because we are drafting 8 currently, guys. And I'm gonna throw a couple names out there, and then we'll kind of go. We'll start with you, B, on the first. We'll just do free agent. Forget me throwing out the names because I'll throw those out on my portion. B, will free agent or draft?
Draft.
Okay, Eugene, free agent, draft.
I mean, there's only one free agent quarterback I want, and that's Cousins. That's it.
Me too.
If I can't get cut,
that's the only one I would even sniff around at, right?
I don't want anybody else.
Guys, and me and B will talk about this, and I'll talk about this with a lot of people. Justin Fields, Atlanta, so y'all know what we like to do down here. We got a guy, he's running around. It's a black dude, he's running around. He's from Georgia. We want to give him a max down here, man. We're going to max him out, send him down here, and send some picks up, something up to the Chicago. Now, me personally with the Justin Fields situation, even though I like the draft too, because with me, guys, the draft comes with that rookie wage scale, and you can do a lot of things in the NFL with that rookie wage scale. You see what's going on in San Francisco right now. Brock Purdy making like $250,000. He's got a roommate, I think, out there. So Brock Purdy, he's out there really allowing San Francisco to go after the Chase Youngs of the world, to build out because they're not paying them anything. The thought of bringing in a guy like a Justin Fields, I'll tell you guys what I would take that situation in a second. But the thought of bringing in a Cousins or a Russell, 30 to 40 million. Now, somebody told me with the Russell Wilson situation that Denver might be eating some of that contract. So it's not like you have to pay him the whole thing. What are your thoughts then on those? Let's say that we go to free agent because we've all liked the draft. We'll talk the draft in a second. Let's talk about the quarterbacks that are available. You got your Fields of the world. You got your Cousins, Russell. I'm trying to think if there's any other free agents of note. Because the thing about that too, guys, in the NFL, if you're a free agent, that's telling. People don't let quarterbacks walk out of their organization. So I'll be telling my friends like, yo, he's only available for one reason, because they feel like they can do better without him. And nobody lets a good signal caller just walk off their team. You seen with Lamar last year, the Ravens were still attached to his leg. He was trying to walk out the door. The Ravens were trying not to pay him and not to let him leave. They were doing both things last year. So it's kind of like ain't nobody holding on to Fields' leg if he walks in. Nobody holding on to Russell Wilson. They benched Russell Wilson at the end of the season. So, what's your thoughts on those free agent quarterbacks there?
They all can stay free agents, as far as I'm concerned. If Cam Newton ain't coming out of retirement, draft.
Oh my goodness, man. Oh no! Oh my God, man!
Cam from the South Side, man. He from Cotton Park, man.
That is a pure. You know what? I'm glad I have you on because that is the most Atlanta fan answer I've ever heard in my life. Is it something like that?
Cam a dog, bro.
Have you looked at Cam? Don't let me get these stats on. You know the show's called Just the Stats. Don't make me feel. You know what? I have so much respect for Cam because Cam works near where I work at. I have so much respect for Cam. I'm not even gonna read his stats on here. I'm not even gonna do it.
Somebody pulled up his stats on another show that he addressed on his show when they were comparing him to Dak Prescott, who he called a game manager. He put him in that
versus him. I mean, 2015 game change.
But Cam pointed out the fact that he was a dual threat quarterback. So they put up his rushing yards and his rushing touchdowns versus Dak. And he got the most of all time. Like, you can't compare.
In what year was that? What year was that?
No, this is total.
So here's the thing about
he got like 73 rushing touchdowns, man.
those totals. Let me pull up because now I'm gonna have to pull up Cam's stats. I hate. Cam. I was trying to leave you alone, bro. I was not even trying to bring. I wasn't even trying to bring him up. Now them stats got to come. Cam is not that dude. Now those stats got to come up.
Walmart. He don't speak.
Absolutely. Now he is that dude. Now we back. Now we back. I'm back. 'Cause I love Cam. I love it, Cam, man. I don't even want to do that. I can't believe I bring my man on here now. He's making me do this to you because I would have never brought these stats up. Now me and Eugene, we had a lot of conversations about Cam last couple of years. So I'm prepared for this. We had a lot of conversations about Cam, and I like him because I'm an Atlanta guy, and I know that feeling. I know what it feels like to like another Atlanta dude and be like, yo, he's Cam, and you remember, is he better than Ritter?
That's a low bar.
The problem,
we want somebody better than
for one. It is,
right?
but at the same time, no, he's not. But because when you look at his stats, so in our mind, it might say yes. The stats are going to say absolutely not. He's not. So when you look here, his last couple years, let's go with New England. Passed for 26-57, 8 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He didn't play
the whole year.
8 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, though. 15 games is still 15. You only missed 2. He went 7-8.
No, that's
so he missed.
He was hurt or something in New England because
he has mentally ill.
He showed up to the first day of training camp dressed like one of the Grinch on one of the henchmen on Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. My boy had on the cape, the top hat joint, like it's someone right up there, man.
And you want to bring him to our team?
To be down here.
That's what you're saying.
Good in the South.
You want to bring?
He did good in Carolina.
So he didn't.
He played good below
Carolina.
the Mason-Dixon line.
He scored one time in Carolina and said, "I'm back," and was out of here. Like
that wasn't his fault. Okay, maybe that was his fault.
I was just saying, he hasn't been good. Cam has not been a starting quarterback since 2018. I don't want to. We're going back full circle.
If we have a free agent, that's what we're going to have to get for me to be satisfied. And he's not.
Oh, man. Get it. We're done then. We're done, man. Forget 7 and 10. We're going to be like, we would need to draft somebody. Eugene, what's your thoughts on those free agents that we did name with Russell Wilson? And I'm glad I'm going to stop my Cam stats right there. I'm going to leave that one stat and then we're getting up out of here because I love Cam and I can't have it. I can't have it.
I love him too. And we can just address the Cam. I think once he had that shoulder injury, that he just never was the same. You can see that.
Another thing about Cam, guys, is Cam was never. It's a massive difference between a Cam because I think a lot of black quarterbacks they get lumped into one because they're black and they play the quarterback position, especially if you can rush. So you look at Lamar Jackson, you look at Cam, and then if you squint, you might think you're seeing the same player, and they are not the same player. Lamar Jackson is an accurate quarterback. Yeah. He's an accurate thrower of the football. Cam was sub 60. If your completion percentage is sub 60. You better be able to run. Like you bet, because that's what Justin Fields. That's what we're looking at with Justin Fields right now.
How many of those are drops and how many are incompletions? Who is he throwing to, dog?
But those are excuses we make for players we like. We don't make those same excuses. Sub 60 is a sub 60. And when you go to get paid, your agent's going to be like,
they do.
Yeah, but look at Patrick Mahomes. So Patrick Mahomes be 80% then if people aren't dropping his passes out here. So that means that even when you have players that drop passes, if they're still in the 60s, if you got players that drop passes and they're still in the 60s, I don't understand how you can wish that 59 up to like 70. You know what I mean? Especially when the career is 59. And I don't really like getting on Cam because I love Cam. I don't want to roast. I just cannot roast this man.
Yeah, Cam was a thrower. That's
what Cam was a superstar. So that's where I do get Cam. Versus what Dak. So when Cam guys was talking about the Dak stuff, I got what he was going at because with Cam was a superstar. Yep. Dak is a great player to me. He's a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback, great player, but he's never Cam. And those players that came there because he didn't just get it for Dak. He got it for a few of those players. He named a lot of people caught strays in that interview that he did. He named a few names in there when he was talking about the game managers versus. But at the same time, though, he has a point because at the end of the day, he was
telling truth.
Yeah, he was because none of those dudes are MVPs.
Yeah,
Cam was an
none
MVP.
of them have gone to Super Bowl.
And none of those dudes were, and none of those dudes have been to Super Bowls, and none of those dudes were Cam. They just weren't Cam. You know what I mean? That's just maybe me having my Atlanta bias.
My bad. Ever since he said that, when you watch those guys in the games, you see why he called them game managers. Like they ain't did nothing to prove otherwise.
You know,
Right.
what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? I know Dak didn't have a great game, man. Dak had a pretty decent year. But the problem is with Dak and the problem is with the Cowboys in general is just the feeling like there will be a collapse at some point. It's just like it seems like a foregone conclusion that at some point during the season there's going to be some type of collapse with the Cowboys, and they gave it to us late in the season. They could be the only team that you could never believe in winning 12 or 13 games a year. Like they'll win 12 or 13 games a year, and you still like questionable. You still side eye them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get where he was coming at with that. Eugene, you said on the free agents, we were talking about Russell and we were talking about Cousins. And is Russell even in that? Because I hear a lot of people talking Justin Fields. I don't hear a lot of Russell Wilson, even though I feel like Russell, if we want win right now, he's not completely horrible. He just regressed, though.
He's regressed
from what he's used to be.
Yeah, it's like what we talk about. We say just the stats, but if it's the stats don't match the eye test, right? The eye test says
they don't match what he's being paid. He's been paid like a superstar.
That too. I'm with you right there. I want to go after a draft pick. I'm tired of these bridge quarterbacks. Listen, and you're talking about Cam. I love Justin Fields, right? He was recruited at Georgia. I wanted to play at Georgia. He went to Ohio State and killed it. But I feel like we see what he is. He's a good quarterback. I just don't think he's going to take us to the promised land. I just don't. And like I know everyone's like, oh, the team got better. Or he got better, and he did. He made some good throws.
That's because that defense got better too, giving them better fit. The second half of the year, giving them better field position, getting them takeaways and stuff like that. That counts for something.
Yeah, but this draft is loaded, and we got to make a play. I mean, if we got to give up some first round picks, let's do it because right now we have a good team. We've got a good defense. We've got some good offensive players. Let's blow some draft picks. We don't need to keep. Listen, we've drafted what 10th or below in the last 3 years. Let's go get a quarterback.
Around the same pick. We've drafted single digits for 3 years.
Right.
Just like our winning record for 3 years.
Number 8. Number 8, man.
Right. Number 8, who can't be.
We need to bring it back. We do a draft show. We need to rock that same shirt because we definitely ain't throwing the ball to him. So here's the thing.
And this was not for the show. I promise I had this on all day.
All right.
I honestly forgot about it until you hit me up a few minutes ago.
Guys, I just got to throw out here because, it's interesting. I have to put this show is called Just the Stats. I do have to bring up your boy Russell Wilson's stats. He only played in 15 games. 3,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 66.4. That'll win you some games, guys. As much as we might hate on Russell, that's going to win you some games. And look at what his situation was in Denver. It'll win you some games. I'm not saying that he's going to be I'm not saying that he's going to come and change your franchise, especially at the number that he's getting paid. But I do think that you can win with stats less than that. What's going on, B?
When he a part of the game where somebody scored like 70 points on his team and they only scored like 6 points back?
That was against Miami. I'm surprised that the D coordinator made it up out of there. That game got a lot better. I mean, that game, the team got a lot better down the stretch. Denver got better down the stretch. They were doing decent. So I do feel like when I look at winning in the NFL is hard for quarterbacks and having these numbers, I don't poo-poo 3,000 yards, 26 and 8. 26 and 8. That's better than people. While people like brush that under the rug as they feel like every quarterback should have 26 and 8 on the touchdown to interception ratio. All right, man. Russell might come to one of these teams and give y'all, if he gives you that exact line right there and your team is decent and you got decent defense, I think he'll be all right.
What was their record?
Their record was, let me see what his record was, 7 and 8. He got, they sat him for the last 2. They sat him for the last 2 games. They didn't want him to get hurt. That kind of
remind me of how folks used to downplay Matt Ryan's stats because a lot of his yards will be in garbage time when it don't matter and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
you brought up Petrino and Matt Ryan's stats.
Yards, and then you getting all these yards, but then what's the record of the team though? Like we not winning no games, or you getting your yards in the fourth quarter when they playing off and trying to just not let us score a touchdown. So yeah, you getting 10 to 12 yards on every pass. You ran up 90 yards on the last drive and we lost. Like so I'm just asking. That's why I'm asking, like those yards and all the stuff that you just said about Russell. Yeah, it's impressive, but what does that do? How old is dude? I just don't want nobody old, bro. It seems like
Let's
he's been in the league since.
see. Let's see how old he is, guys. I think maybe like late 30s. Maybe late 30s for him. I have to look it up and see what his
You got
age
to feel
is.
the psyche of what I'm
30,
saying.
35,
Like,
guys. 35.
that's too much. That's too much. Like Pitts just got
35
drafted.
is too
Drake
much.
London just got drafted. Bajan just got drafted. Our nucleus is young. We need a quarterback so everybody can grow together. We can be on some Golden State Dynasty type stuff if we get the right young person. But we can't keep going for something that's just going to immediate gain right now. In 2 years, we got to do this all over. We be having the same sweat in 2 years. Like, we drafting or we going free agent? Like, nah.
I would still draft guys if I went
keep.
with one of these free agents. I would
Let's
still
get somebody that's
basically
gonna be
I would
like
still
Mahomes.
draft.
Well, we're not gonna have to draft no more. We're gonna just give
Well,
him a 10-year contract and be satisfied with building around him.
That's what every NFL team in history will love that. Now here's the thing. The
Bo
thing
Nix,
is,
baby.
oh my god. Oh
I'm just playing.
goodness gracious. Oh my goodness.
I'm just
You know what? You know what? Another thing too, because he brought up two things that really, as a Falcons fan, I cannot stand when people bring up Bobby Petrino, the absolute bum he is, and when people
Right.
bring up Matt Ryan stats, because I had him ready at work. People, let me just pass by somebody here and Matt Ryan. Hey, I'm circling back with the stats. I'm circling back.
I'm on your side though.
Circling
just
back
telling you
because
what
the
they
thing
say.
is, you know what though? I thought they were crazy because a lot of these same guys, some of these same people I would talk to would be like, "Yo, let's bring Vic back." I'm like, "Yo, Vic is commentating, and we ain't never had 2 winning seasons with him in our life." I think people capsulate. It's like a relationship where you have a breakup, right?
Yep.
Sometimes after the breakup, you remember all the good stuff, guys. I remember all the good stuff. You know what I mean? And as time goes by, you remember some of the good stuff. You back in the room in an hour with that person, and you're like, "Oh no, this is why I should have never. This is why we left the first time." The thing is with Vic brought a tremendous amount of excitement to the city. So I get that because I was here for that. We were here for that to see what that looked like. We were the center of the NFL universe when Vic was here, and he brought that. So I get that energy. But at the same time, he was a better quarterback in Philly. When he came back to Philly, he was a better pocket passer there. And he never had back-to-back winning seasons. Matt Ryan just goes for 60-something thousand yards, rips off 4 to 5 winning seasons, and people think he's a bum. And I'm like, yo, I don't get that. Matt's going to go to the Hall of Fame. And then another thing, too, when I'm looking at the Russell Wilson situation at 35 and then what the numbers are, a lot of these things that we might bring up with the garbage time and stuff like that, a lot of quarterbacks have that, and that's still baked into their numbers. So when you look at this person, they got 2,500. You had a couple games like that, and you still are about 1,000, 500, 600, 700 yards shorter than that. And your touchdown to interception ratio is still upside down. And I still use the completion percentage, guys. That's why the completion percentage is so important, in my opinion, because it gets through what we're saying, all that. You know what I mean? You can either get the ball there accurately or you can't. You know what I mean? And no matter what the time is in the game and stuff like that, I feel like that is something that should be paid attention to. Eugene, what are your thoughts there on the draft? Let's move on past the free agent because we all seem to be on the same page. Page about the free agents. So.
Oh, real quick, I want to tell you. So that game, that 70-20 game against Miami, he threw for 306 yards. So there you go. So he threw. So
and people, but on the stat sheet, you getting destroyed, right? Like on the stat, you can destroy that 70 looks horrible. Guys.
Yeah,
that 70 looks horrible. You don't want to let nobody back on the team playing after that.
Or something?
It was
it
defense.
a lot of turnovers? It
was their defense being inept at stopping. That's back when Tua and Tyreek were at the height of their powers. And they were basically throwing that thing all over the yard, and they had no answers for that from a defense perspective. And even if Russell was to put up 30 to 40, they would have lost by 30. Like I feel like at that point, it kind of sucked for them. But I do think, though, it's so hard to be an NFL quarterback. I feel the same thing even about Jared Goff right now. He's a guy who's is on the verge of taking 2 teams to the Super Bowl right now. Right. It's harder to do than people give credit for it. They think they can just think a quarterback up and just throw a guy in here and it's going to work out. If we keep that pick, because, guys, a lot of people, if they do decide to do the Justin Fields situation, they're talking about having to give up that 8th draft pick. I'm not giving up the 8th for Justin Fields. I'm just not about to do it.
Worth it. You know what I mean? Worth the first round. He's. And
they say Chicago is going to want a first rounder for him, and I don't blame Chicago. I think they might be able to get it from one of these desperate teams, depending on how far back in the draft.
True. No,
they're picking.
Yeah, we got to move up the draft. That's the key. There's 3 guys in this draft we've got to try and make a move for, and that
go from 8 to where, Eugene? Where do we go to?
Well, if you look, I mean, the top 3 teams Well, number one doesn't need a quarterback. We know that, right? Or I'm sorry, the number one does need a quarterback. So
Depending on if Chicago stays in that pick, that's the big thing, right? Because Chicago has that pick, so we got to see if Chicago stays in it or not. And then if they do stay in it, do they take Caleb? If they stay in it,
if I'm there, I'm taking Caleb.
Right.
And it's like, what else choice? I mean,
that's another thing, though, guys. Like, we're all in agreement with they should move off Justin Fields, and you'll have other fans feel like we should be taking them. So you have fans who say, yo, Chicago should move off of them, and then you'll have fans not on this show, but in general, who'll be like, yo, we would love to have them. I don't understand both of those things being possible.
Right.
Because he what you see him do in Chicago with the limited amount of resources, you feel like would translate better with a team that has more resources.
For sure, especially like a team like ours, guys. But I feel like that with a lot of quarterbacks, to be honest with you. I feel like we're ready-made to just drop a guy in there and be instantly competitive. Instantly competitive.
And he can run, which you got to be able to run in Atlanta because we spending money on everything except the offensive line. We be having some good ones. I thought our O-line was pretty decent. You still two back this past year. Ritter took a lot of sacks, but he got sacked a lot of times, though.
Yeah.
How long was he holding on to the ball? Did he get it out 2 to 3 seconds?
No, negative.
Okay, because if that has something to do with depending on how long, because you see some quarterbacks can get sacked, and plus I feel like Ritter, this is literally his first season, so it's like there's a lot of things that get cleaned up in your first season that you don't look like that. Like if you looked at how Jordan Love looked when he first played his first couple games and how Jordan Love looked this year, after getting some reps, he looked like a different player. I think Ritter can be a decent player. I just don't think that the turnovers, guys, is what has me out on Ritter. It's not even his play, because his play statistically, I brought up the 300-yard games, how he's got 3 or 4, and Justin Fields has 1 in his life. These are legit stats. The guy he can sling it. Here's the problem: turnovers get you benched. Period. That's just the way it is. Turnovers are going to get you sat down. So I don't think there's anything more to say about that. And I think they're going to move off Ritter, and I think the turnovers are going to be a big part of that. Who do you like at 8, B. Will? If we stay around there, let's just say who do you like? Let's say we stay around 5 or 6. Let's assume, guys, that the first 2 we're not in play for. Let's say that it's Drake May and Caleb. Let's say those 2 we're not in play for. Okay. Who else do you like, B?
Daniels. LSU.
Okay. Yeah, we all love that, right? We all love that.
Hey, I'm joking about it, but I don't know what it is about Bo Nix that make me feel like he's gonna be a good NFL quarterback for whatever reason.
He could be, because he played for 7 years in college. Like he could be.
You feel me? He got the experience, right?
30 coming into the league. Right. You know what I mean? So I definitely think that he could be.
He was getting that experience, but I like Daniels though.
I like Daniels too. I wouldn't crap on Bo Nix. Who you like, Eugene?
Oh, we're all in agreement. I am the opposite of Bo Nix. I've watched too many Auburn games for him just to go.
Same. And I'm a Bama fan, so I can't stand him. Can't stand that man.
And let's just face it. When's the last quarterback that came out of Oregon that wasn't a system quarterback? And you're like, oh, that guy looked good, and gets in the NFL is not good. So
good point.
Yeah.
How many quarterbacks come out of Oregon in general, Eugene? How many do we really got? Mariota came from there, right? And then who before Mariota came out of there?
Well, you know what? I'm sorry. I am forgetting.
That was Chip Kelly's system, Mariota? Was he in Chip Kelly's system when he came out of there?
And he was supposed to have been the greatest thing ever coming out of college.
Yeah, because it was him and Jameis. Him and Jameis did decent when they first came out. I think they were both in the playoffs or something like that. I know Mariota took us to Tennessee. To the promised land. I don't know why people thought he was going to be good here. I never fell for that when he came here, because you usually don't get somebody off somebody else's bench. Usually don't get somebody off somebody else's team, but definitely not off their bench to come over there and be good for yours. I do like the Daniel situation. I would take Penix. The only thing I don't like about Penix is the injury history. Eugene, I've been very consistent about that on this show my entire time. If you're a college injury prone player, and you're coming into the league, every single hit, you got to hold your breath. Every single time you go down, you got to just hope the man get back up, because you're injury prone with players who aren't even going to be in the league. You're injury prone with them. Like, you're getting injured with those guys. These guys are professionals, grown men. So the Penix injury situation scares me, but the rookie wage scale has me back in on him a bit. Would you guys? So let's say, guys, it came down to like a Bo Nix or a Michael Penix. B. Will, who you taking?
Penix is the left-handed Ritter. You feel me?
Oh
He-
my
he's
goodness. Oh,
bro.
goodness. So
He has
disrespectful.
no pocket
So
awareness. That's why he keep getting
disrespectful.
hurt because he keep getting hit. He has
He got
no.
hurt. Yeah, he didn't get hurt this year. He was
Well,
out there all
I'm.
year.
Yeah, he made it the whole year. He was
He
banged
made
up
it
in
the
that.
whole year, but he
Yeah.
gets sacked
Indiana
every
is where he got where
every
he
other
lost a couple
drive,
years.
bro. I do not want him. He's the left.
So you would take Bo Nix. Oh, so you would take Bo Nix over Michael Penix. You would.
I hope we don't be put in that position. You think everybody gonna be gone by 8?
I think that I think the guys that we want, guys. I don't
It
think
would have to
Daniels
be
makes
like
it to
5
8.
people. Who gonna
Daniels
take
doesn't
him?
make it to 8 because so the ones that I'm looking at in the order, if I was to give the order, I would say, at least for my order, and the Drake May kid, I'm just going based on what people say. I didn't watch a ton of Drake May games. So I'm just gonna go
He's
based on
good.
the hype.
He's good.
Drake May. So Caleb Wright, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Daniels, who's moved into the third. I think he's got that spot by himself now. I think that the Heisman solidified that for him. I think he's gonna be in that third spot. Fourth is gonna be Michael Penix. And then fifth is where Bo Nix. Now, what's interesting, guys, about the Bo Nix situation is where people have him. Like, I don't know if they have him in the first round. I don't know if they have him late. I think he's going to be gone first round because of the position he plays. It's just too damn important. Like, it's an important position. So I don't see him making it into the second round. But they seem to be those top 4, and then Bo Nix over here somewhere. They don't have him close to those other players. So I definitely feel like if you want a player like Daniels, right now, let me just go off the top of my head here. We have Chicago in the first. I think Washington is second.
Yep.
I think Washington got that second pick. New England. So Washington, New England, the Bears, guys, if they don't take a quarterback, are going to trade to a team that needs one, right? Why do you stay in that first pick? If you can trade 2 or 3 picks back and still get you like a Marvin Harrison Jr. or somebody that you want, when you know all those teams in front of you are going to take quarterbacks, I think maybe they trade back just to maybe still get a player of a Marvin Harrison Jr. caliber. But I think that you see 3 quarterbacks, you can envision, guys, 3 quarterbacks being gone in the top like 4 picks, 4 picks, and all of them gone. And the Giants, are they going to keep paying Daniel Jones? They might be in play. They're ahead of us as well.
Yeah. Oh, I have to correct myself. Herbert went to Oregon, so there is one legit quarterback that's out of Oregon.
Well, you know, I love me some Justin Herbert, and that's another thing too, guys. Look at that Chargers record; they got a quarterback. They look like bums. Like that absolutely got Staley fired. So if it comes down to it, guys, and we stick, maybe we got to get up to how far do we have to get up to? 4, 5? How far do we have to get up to, B, to take a decent quarterback?
I saw a mock draft that has the Bears keeping their quarterback and their number 1 pick and taking Harrison with the number 1 pick.
With the number 1 pick. Oh, that.
And
crazy.
I saw another one that has Harrison going number 2 and the Bears taking Caleb Williams, and then like another team is taking an offensive tackle, somebody else is taking the defensive end. Everybody in front of us don't need a quarterback. It's not going to be 5 quarterbacks drafted before us. I think we'll still be able to get Daniels. I think we're going to get the third quarterback off the balls. I mean, off the board, off the balls. Pause. Yeah, we're going to get him off the balls.
I don't see if Daniels makes it to 8. First of all, that's a miracle. That's a miracle if he makes it to 8. I think teams are going to. When you look at the teams, that means you're saying that, because let's look at Washington and New England. We know those are 2. Right. So those are 2 that are in there. They're in there. You got to hope. I do hope. And I do think that Arizona is going to run with Kyler. So I do think that we dodge that bullet. We dodge the Arizona situation. We dodge the Giants. Now the Giants are a sticky situation because I don't know if Daniel Jones' contract is front loaded. I know they just re-upped him last year to minus May. Yeah. Eugene, you know, I roasted that on this show into oblivion. They should have paid Saquon. They were crazy. They didn't pay the best player on their team, and they deserve everything they get for not paying the best player on their team. They played a guy who in Daniel Jones who is completely mediocre. So maybe you said his contract is front loaded, Eugene. Can they move off that
it's after this year? After this year, it's kind of where the cap hit's not so bad. It's like if you got to keep him for 2 years. After this,
so
year.
He just injured one, right? The first one, and then he's on this year now. So I still think that if I'm the Giants, I still take a quarterback and put him behind that, because I'm not. I think I've already in my mind, just kind of like how you saw what Denver did with Russell. In their mind, they moved off of him before they benched him. They already moved off of him. And I feel like the Giants might do the same thing here with Daniel Jones. So if so, do you miss on taking the Daniels? Do you take like an offensive tackle or something to keep Daniel Jones
That's
for
what
like
they were
1 year?
projected. They were the
Offensive
one
tackle for
taking the
them?
tackle. Mhm.
Okay. So then who's in the 6 and 7 spot? Because that's
don't
what
remember.
then we got to get to that. So, and another thing that I'm really worried about, guys, is teams trading in front of us, which I think they're going to do if they need a quarterback. You're going to definitely trade in
True.
front of the 8 spot. And you're not going to, if you
Yeah.
know that we are going to just sit at 8 and you got a smart executive in your office, you can get up to 7.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And get that guy right up from under you that you thought was going to be sitting there. So I feel like if you're the Falcons, you got to fall in love with a couple of players.
There's another wide
let's see.
receiver that's projected to go before.
Is it
before our
the kid
pick.
from Washington?
Washington, and you got that
And
wide
you have
receiver
Malik
from
Neighbors. You got Neighbors from LSU.
Neighbors.
LSU,
Right?
Yeah.
Neighbors,
Neighbors.
is touted up there, so he's going to go pretty high.
Yeah.
I
That's
like
what I'm
those.
saying.
I like those
Everybody
picks.
don't need quarterbacks, dog. Somebody going I don't think it's going I really think we're gonna get the third quarterback off the board. I just
Staying
don't
at
know
8.
who it's
Like
gonna be.
staying at the 8th pick.
Somebody might jump up in front of us and take Daniels as the second quarterback, and we get May.
Drake May fall into 8, is what you're saying.
If I'm just saying, stuff happens, bro.
Man, that would be incredible. Yeah, that'd be incredible.
You know how
I don't
sometimes
know.
the quarterback will be drafted up here, and then they'll be like, I don't know what's going on, number 17, and he's still on the board. And oh, he'll be a great pick for
That's
this
true,
team.
because
He's
you saw
number
Lamar fell
27,
to
and he's
30
still
to 32nd for Lamar. Lamar fell to all the way
Right.
to the end, and the Ravens traded back in to that round to
Right.
go take Lamar. So I do feel like that's going to happen. That could happen, but when you look at the quarterbacks that happens to, it's not usually the ones that are as highly touted as the ones that are coming out this year that we're talking about. Those quarterbacks being talked about for some of these quarterbacks have been talked about for like a year or two. So I don't.
True.
It's interesting to see them now come into this year and maybe fall to around the 10th pick would be crazy to me to see. But crazier things have happened. Let's move on to talking a little bit about the league and just moving around the league here from a playoff perspective. Now we did see the people kind of piling on with Josh Allen and piling on with the Bills. I'm seeing a lot of that. The problem with a Josh Allen has a Jameis Winston type problem. Jameis was a 30 for 30 guy, right? He'll give you 30 touchdowns. He's going to give you 30 interceptions. You know what I mean? And Josh Allen will give you 50 touchdowns, but he's going to give you about 20 to 30 times a year. He's going to put you back in the game. About roughly 20 to 30 times a year, he's going to give the other team a chance to get back in the game. And another thing, too, is that their defense is pretty good. Isn't McDermott, Eugene, a defensive coach? Like their defense was pretty good. I think another issue with knocking the Bills, you lost to one of the guy who's already got a Hall of Fame jacket. You lost to a guy that's already got a Hall of Fame jacket on over there. Don't act like he can't do that. He hasn't done that to several teams. Patrick Mahomes can come into your stadium and beat you. That's not beyond the realm of like possibility. I think one of the things that might be irritating for people is just seeing how far they are though from each other. Patrick Mahomes is just way better than Josh Allen. You might have thought they were like close, right? You watch games like that and you're like, man, I don't know if it's as close, man. Mahomes might just be way better than bro. What's your thoughts on that, Eugene?
Well, the difference between him and Jameson, at least with Josh, when he's healthy, he's going to be healthy, right? You can pencil in 10 wins, right? It's 10 wins every year with Josh, right? There's no
doubt.
No
and he's like responsible for a lot of those because he's rushing like what B was talking about earlier.
Right.
He's got that rushing. He'll rush for 30, 40, 50 yards on you.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just one of those. It kind of just has that Brett Favre mentality, right? He's going to sling it, and and if there's 3 guys that are covering your wide receiver, he doesn't care. But man, he made some throws in that game that was just like should not be dropped. Like what
about the one into the end zone, though, Eugene? You got to have that one though.
Well,
the one in the end zone that he missed, you got to have it.
You got to, but yeah, you're right. Sometimes we watch them as like it's like you want this to be like the Peyton versus Tom Brady, but it's
not seeming like it, guys.
It's not seeming.
Mahomes
like
owns them. He owns that team.
Yeah, he really. Let's face it. He owns a lot of teams. He's 13-3 in the playoffs. It's not like he's not.
Very true. Very true. Played his first road playoff game in his whole career.
Yeah,
last week.
So, and that's crazy, right? And that offenses looks it's been sputtering all year. Then all of a sudden they just
horrible, right?
Look horrible. And then they go against the Bills, who, you know, their defense is banged up. It's older, but man, they look so much better. So much better the whole game.
What's your thoughts on that, B?
Pacheco, man.
Beasley, right? Beasley.
Yeah.
X Factor. I agree. And you know what? Their defense, B, Kansas City defense has been stepping up. They haven't allowed 30 points all year. Like when you're looking at that defense step up, that's one of the things that when you look at the past guys, the past Kansas City teams, that defense this is their best defense Patrick Mahomes has ever had on his team since he's been playing with Kansas City. What are your thoughts on that, B?
I think the first couple of weeks when Chris Jones was holding out or something like that.
Correct.
It kind of
not after that first game though. They lost
right.
The first couple
first
weeks.
Game, it was different when he came back, and it's been different since then. And then, what's his name again, baby? Valdez
Scantling. MVS.
He wasn't dropping no passes.
He showed up. He showed up this past week.
He covered his projections for the first time this year. They be having that man passing yards at 4.5, and he will not cover them 4 yards. You hear me?
You know what's crazy is that it's this team looks like the actual Chiefs this year, so it'll be interesting. I do think they're going to lose to Lamar. Guys,
I do too.
When it comes to Lamar winning, there's one thing that I want to see happen that I've never seen happen in my life, and I believe that Lamar has a chance to make it happen this year, and that's a guy who can rush for that many yards winning a championship. You don't see guys who can rush win championships. And that's been something that we've been talking about. We've talked about it, Eugene, on the show before, how guys who have the rushing stats that look very good. They don't ever, you go to the end of the season and there's statues in there. Your Drew Breeses of the world. They're guys who don't move at all are playing in the championship games. So it's interesting to see if Lamar can pull that off. And I would love to see a rushing quarterbacks kind of get over that hump. You know what I mean? Get over that hump of like, yo, we can win chips. You know what I mean? He's already got an MVP. He's already got a Heisman, on the verge of getting a second MVP. Now, when I remember, Eugene, when we had a conversation about him being available, and I told you that I never believed he was available because you have a lot of people like, oh, there's all these teams that passed on him. The Ravens, it's like you dating somebody and you ain't moved out of my house yet. Like you come talk to her, but yo, your stuff's still in my crib. Like you have not gone anywhere. So I feel like a lot of teams felt like the Ravens were going to hold on to them. And I think when you look at the reality, a lot of teams were right. The Ravens were going to end up having to pay him, and they were never going to let the man walk. But the people I do think that need to be roasted are the people, if you go back to his combine, who wanted to see him work out as wide receiver. There was a lot of scouts who wanted to see him go out there and catch passes during his combine. I'm not sure if that's just a black quarterback thing. You got a black quarterback. But let me see you run some routes real quick. You wouldn't ask Drew Brees, nobody else to run routes. But you're going to ask him to go out there and run routes for you real quick, catch some passes and see how he looks, try him out at these different positions. So those guys look like absolute clowns right now. What are your thoughts on that game, Eugene?
Oh, just on Lamar?
The upcoming.
No, I mean,
upcoming Ravens and Chiefs.
Well, it's amazing that so this year we've seen a different Lamar, right? We've seen him just mature into just the pocket passer. Like we would wait and see this. And the cool thing is, hey, if everyone's covered, he can run. And he finally, first of all, they finally got him a wide receiver. They got him a good.
Yes, Zay Flowers paying instant dividends for them, right? And OBJ catching a couple of them.
You know,
they brought catching a couple of them out here.
Right. So, and it was great to see that game last week, this past week, and go, because that's a typical game where they just fold, right? Like, oh no, they're kind of close, halftime, and that's a different feel from last past Raven teams, right? Where this team would have folded. Lamar would have kind of folded as well, but it's great to see he just looks like so much more comfortable, and you can tell this year he wasn't worried about stats. Obviously, if you had him in fantasy, you were kind of let down this year because
I did.
Yeah, right.
That's because they were stomping teams out, and he had 115 yards. He had 115 yards and one touchdown. They're beating a team by 30. Like, right. So what do you do with that?
Right. You know exactly. I mean? So. Yeah, so I think that's where that's the maturity of him. So now he's looking to throw. It's just watch it. It's amazing to see him. He's going through the checkdowns, and he's going through all his checkdowns. Versus when he last couple of years, he got 1 or 2 checkdowns and he's gone. He was taking off. Now you can see him. He's surveying the field. He's running around the pocket, and then it's the last resort versus before he used to just take off. It's fun to watch.
You know,
Yeah.
B, I'm gonna let you. Do you have any more comments on Lamar? I'm gonna give you some comments on Lamar, and then we'll move on after that.
Do you consider Steve Young a running quarterback? Does he not count in that
Yeah,
category?
absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. Steve Young, like it's just that Steve doesn't have the yardage. Like, so when I'm going back to the class, I'm looking at your Randall Cunninghams of the world, guys. So when I'm looking at guys who I feel like we're competent at both parts, because there's a difference between a guy that I look at as like a rushing quarterback, which when you look at Fields, Justin Fields last 3 years or so, he seems like a rushing quarterback that can throw the ball. Then when you're looking at guys in my head that can rush, but also competent passers, you're back entering your Randall Cunninghams, your Steve Youngs of the world, guys that you feared going over top. You know what I mean? You had to fear that they'll go over top, and you got to fear the run. So I think Steve Young and Randall Cunningham kind of factor into that. And when you look at the fact
But later
that
to their
Lamar,
careers, though, later on their careers
That's
is
what
what
I
they
was
got.
finna
yeah,
ask.
because
Yeah.
I think that Tampa Bay Steve, I would have to go back and look and see what Tampa Bay Steve looked like. Because we're talking about the Steve Young that we all know is a 49er Steve, right? So we
Right.
know the 49er Steve. We would have to go back to Tampa Bay Steve and see kind of what those were. But hey, Steve will
Did
run
he
around.
play?
And if we go all the way back, yeah, he was playing there. Yeah, he had some
I don't
starts in
even.
Tampa
I
Bay.
mean, yeah, I don't remember him being on the team. I know they went through a bunch of quarterbacks in the '90s, though.
Yeah, he was one of them, and I'm not sure. I got to look at the 90s, maybe the late 80s. I got to look and see what years he actually played for Tampa Bay. But just to piggyback off one of my earlier points that I was telling you about, guys, that I really like and what I've loved Lamar consistently. The only issue I ever had with Lamar was the injuries. It was never the play, because I felt like from a player, he deserves a Patrick Mahomes type contract. Telling you that before. But when you're missing 5 games this year and you're missing 5 games the year before, that's going to make any team nervous because you're missing all those games. But percentage-wise, guys, for one, this man has only lost 19 games in his career. He's only lost 19 games. He has a 64.5 completion percentage. He has, and this is one of my favorites, 125 touchdowns to 45 interceptions. That's an incredible touchdown to interception ratio, guys.
Yeah,
when you're looking at those kind of stats, those are the telling stats. If those stats are close to each other, even if they're close, let's say that you're over, you have like 100 touchdowns, but you got like 60 interceptions. You may have more, but it's still kind of close. But when you're looking at what this man is doing, he's an incredible quarterback, despite the rushing stat, an incredible player.
True.
Let's talk real quick about the last game, and then we're kind of get out of here. The 49ers, the Brock Purdy situation, guys, I get it. People want to call him like the ultimate game manager, but people forget that he had, Trey Lance was starting in front of him. People forget that Brock Purdy was a third quarterback on the roster. So for everybody who's like, yo, he's a system quarterback, what happened to those other 2 quarterbacks in the system that were ahead of him? Now, once they got injured, they never came back. So when you're looking at the situation where I feel like he doesn't get it, I feel like Brock Purdy does not get enough credit for playing in the NFL and being a winning quarterback, putting up the numbers he puts up, because he puts up significant numbers. He doesn't turn the ball over. And he looks great in Shanahan's system. I'm not sure if you guys are giving the Lions a shot here. So let's start with you, B. Who do you want to win the
game? First, I think Purdy looks good in Shanahan's system. And I think if you put Ritter in that same system around the same players with the same coach who will actually coach him instead of just letting him learn on the job and blaming everything on him, and sitting him when he doesn't perform well, like it's his fault instead of your fault for not coaching. I think
he's trying to get that job saved, B. He's trying to save that job. He saw the writing on the wall at the end of the season.
It's his fault. He not throwing it right. That's why I put him on the bench. Our quarterback sucks. The one I wanted. Yeah. No. I think Ritter would do good in Shanahan's system with the players that he has around him. So I think Purdy is overrated, bro. Overrated. He does what he has to do he's a game manager, and I ain't mad at him. I can't blame him for where he got drafted up in the situation that he's in, but still though, he doesn't do anything impressive.
That's very interesting. And I'm gonna get them stats on you. Who do you like in the game? You like San Francisco? You like the Lions?
I like San Francisco, but not because of Purdy.
Okay, but you like San Francisco?
Absolutely.
Okay, Eugene, let's get your thoughts, and then I'll just kind of finish up.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then the the thing when you're watching that game, just when the throws he was missing, it was like
Right.
that was the thing when you're watching Purdy throw. It's like I get it was raining, but didn't he played at Iowa or Iowa State, right? I don't think that I can't. I mean, I've never been to Iowa or Iowa State, but I don't think they have like just the clearest weather, right? So I think
Right.
it's just surprising to me that the whole glove thing and some of the throws is like it almost remind me of are we watching a playoff game or are we watching a preseason game? Just some of the throws he was missing. Now he did use Samuel, so that could be the issue. And
that's a key too, by the way, guys. If Debo can't go,
the Debo can't go.
That's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem for San Francisco.
But again, and then they got all these things, all these weapons on defense, and man, Green Bay was moving on them like they were like that was a second-rate defense. I mean, this is supposed to be like the top defense.
They did the same thing to Dallas. You got to shout out to Green Bay. They did the same thing right up and down the
field. Was balling.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
was balling.
But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see this game. I mean, personally, I think it'd be great for the city of Detroit. You know, just for them to win. I think that'd be awesome.
Hump there.
Get over the hump.
Me too.
I think that'd be cool. But I think maybe this is the game. Like, they have the crap game of San Francisco, and they right the ship and go, okay, we're not losing to this team. Like we're built to win.
Detroit, double-digit wins, Eugene, and they're not bums.
Well, I know, I've been saying, but we are built to go to the Super Bowl. That's what I mean. Not, and I'm not knocking Detroit, but like this, like we are built to be a Super Bowl team. So that's what I mean. Like right the ship and take care of business.
I like San Francisco in this game, but not by a ton. The storyline I like, guys, is Detroit. I would love Detroit to win this game for just a storyline purpose, to see Goff go back, take a second team to the Super Bowl, to see the Detroit Lions and what Dan Campbell has been building there over the years. Because sometimes you see the trend, right? So I have a friend who's like, yo, we probably can go to the Super Bowl this year. And I'm like, it's hard to go from 3, 7, and 10 seasons straight into the Super Bowl. When you look at Detroit, when Dan Campbell got there, it was a trek up. They went from like winning 4 games to winning 9 games to this year. You know what I mean? Each year got incrementally better. So I like what they're building there. I like the team in general. I believe Detroit's the kid Aiden Hutchinson is the truth. Like that kid is the truth, man. And you see how those edge rushers really pay dividends for your teams when you get competent edge rushers, and that kid is definitely a beast. I will give you some Brock Purdy numbers here. That's going to make it hard. I want to agree with a lot of what people say about Brock Purdy. However, the numbers are for him are just incredible. So when you look at his completion percentage, it's 68.7. He completed 69% of his passes this year. That's not a stat. That's not a game manager completion rate. When you're looking at that rate, and another thing, piggybacking off of why I love completion rate so much, it's just so hard to have it. You either are an accurate quarterback or you're not. And you see this in college, and you see the kind of how that translates. Even Desmond Ridder, he might have fumbles and stuff like that, but he was still at least 64-ish, 65-ish on the completion percentage as a rookie. Brock Purdy's only played in 21 games in his entire career. He's lost 4 of those games. His record this year, or his yards this year, was 4,280, 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Matt Ryan won the MVP with very similar numbers. I think Matt Ryan was 31-7, somewhere around there when Matt Ryan won the MVP. I don't think this is easy to fake. I don't think this is easy you can't just coach 31 and 11. You can't just coach 69%. Well, if you go back and look at Kyle Shanahan's other quarterbacks that he's had in his system, I think you're going to be hard pressed to find 69% in that system, going back to Kirk Cousins. Because I think Shanahan, I want to say, guys, I'm not sure if he was on those Kirk Cousins teams when he was in Washington. I'm not sure if he was with his dad there in Washington. I think his dad was a coach when they had RG3 and the Kirk Cousins situation. But Shanahan has a lot of great coaches, guys. When you look at his career, Shanahan, he's a man. And I believe the credit being taken away from Purdy is not necessarily credit being taken away from Purdy than it is credit being given to Shanahan. Like, Shanahan is a great offensive mind, and he makes guys look amazing. And then when they leave him, they look horrible. So I think Purdy would have to prove that, but at the same time, 69%, almost 70. Let me see if I give him the roundup. Let me see if the roundup 69.4. So I'm not going to give him the roundup. Even his first year was 67%. Shanahan saw something to get Trey Lance up out of there. When they moved off that second pick and all the picks that they traded for that second pick for Trey Lance, who's in Dallas right away right now. I'm not sure if Dak's looking over his shoulder, but he's out there in Dallas. But when they traded away Trey Lance, I think that told you everything that Shanahan thought about Purdy. And I'm really big on that because a lot of these guys, they see these quarterbacks in practice, right? So a lot of us as fans will say stuff like, he only played one game, but your coach has seen you in like 300 practices. Like they've seen you in practice tons of times. I remember when Patrick Mahomes was coming on, guys, and they had Alex Smith with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, one of the things I kept hearing before Patrick Mahomes ever started was other players giving interviews about this man in practice saying like, yo, man, we got this dude named Mahomes, man, and he's really out there slinging it, man. This Alex Smith might be out of here. Like they were, that's kind of what they were saying amongst themselves, So I think that helps. I think that helps with Purdy's situation here. I also think that San Francisco's got an opportunity. It's going to be hard to do this, guys, on San Francisco's turf. It's going to be hard for for Detroit to go there and make that happen. I definitely appreciate you taking some time out here, B. Will. You got any final words here for the audience?
I like the Falcons in the Super Bowl.
What year? Next year?
Any year.
Every year, including next year. That's inclusive of next year.
I like everything Georgia, like the tattoos say, man. I'm talking about Falcons, Bulldogs, Braves. They need to bring back the Thrashers. I'm talking about Georgia Tech.
Goodness gracious.
Mercer Bears, Savannah, Georgia.
So B. Will likes Georgia.
TV,
B. Will likes Georgia. Just take
man.
The Falcons out of it. Georgia in the championship games. All of them.
Period. Yeah. Don't even ask. Even if they not playing. You feel me?
Spoken like a true fan. Once again, we will probably. I'm going to bring you back on, B, and we'll talk the Trey Lance stuff or the Trey Young stuff. DeJounte, probably closer to like the trade deadline. Yeah, we'll talk it close because then we'll get kind of when the trade deadline comes, guys. You kind of get a clearer focus of which teams are throwing in the towel and which ones are kind of still keeping it moving. Goodness gracious.
Somebody gonna be gone by
Goodness
then,
gracious, man.
Hey,
Yo,
I'm gonna tell you,
hey,
real quick, I think it's Capella and the long arm dude with the fro that don't never play a full season. What's his name? The small forward, the defensive dude.
Oh, Hunter?
DeAndre, huh? DeAndre.
I think we need to get rid
they're
of
gone.
Capella.
You think they're gone.
And Hunter and maybe even Bogdan and bring in somebody else to add somebody else.
Because DeJounte, they sound you got to add him to the list. They're talking about having you finna have like Trey and the Water Boy playing out there.
Keep Jonte and Trey and add somebody.
I would love to do
get
that,
rid
man.
Of everybody else. You feel me? That's what I'm saying.
I hear that Jonte's
not
going.
Everybody. We got to keep Okongwu in them.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Keep Okongwu, and then
that's why
what
we
about
get rid of Capella?
Yeah.
Okay. I can go for that more than I can go for DeJounte still being on this team, which I will love. I will love for us to not trade this man. I don't want him to go. I think he's a good player.
Afro, Cam Johnson, maybe. I can't think of dude. Jalen Johnson.
I think Cam Johnson plays. It's Jalen Johnson.
Jalen Johnson. He's replaced. When is the last time Hunter played a full season? I love him.
Jalen Johnson's a great player, though. Jalen Johnson's. I like what I'm seeing from him. I like what I'm seeing from the kid.
Keep who we got, bro, and bring in somebody else. I don't know who. Let's get Anthony Davis.
We'll give you time to get that all together, and then we'll bring you back on for that. This is Justin Stats, Reggie Johnson, Eugene Morton with our man here, B. Will. Check us out, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts, as well as TikTok and I think Instagram. And one day I'm gonna actually log on to there and actually promote this show on there at some point in life. All right, see you next time, guys.